So this video is going to go through the first half of June 2018, paper 6, which is a calculator paper. So we know that Ping chooses 4 numbers. We know the mode of them is 8, so there must be more 8s than any other number. So for that to happen, at least 2 of them must be 8s. We know the range is 7, so the difference between the biggest one and the smallest one must be 7. So I'm going to say, well, if 8 is, for example, the smallest, then if I add on 7, that's going to make 15. And then we know the mean is 11. So we know that there are 4 numbers. So they would have added up all 4 numbers, divided by 4 to get a mean of 11. So we can work out what they must have added up to by timesing 11 by 4. And that is 44. So we can check that makes sense. If they added up to 44, they would have then divided it by 4 to get a mean of 11. So far, if we work out our total here, so we've got 8 plus 8 plus 15. So that's going to make 16 plus 15, which is 31. So if we do 44, take away 31, then I'm going to get 13. So it's just worth checking in. Does everything work? So is the mode 8? Well, yeah, that's more 8s than any other number. Is the range 7? Well, the biggest is 15, the smallest is 8. 15 take away 8 is 7. Is the mean 11? Well, they add up to 44, and when I divide by 4, I do get 11. So those would be my numbers. So 8, 8, 13, and 15. Question 2. So when you get questions like this where you've got the same thing in both ratios, so for example on this one you've got blue pens here and blue pens here. So that is the 9 in that ratio, and it's the 1 in that ratio because it depends on the order that it says it in. So red to blue means the blue is the second number, whereas blue to green means blue is the first number. So you want to try and make those numbers the same. So to do that, if this one is 9 and this one is 1, I can just times the second ratio by 9 to get 9 to 36. So the 5 to 9, that's talking about the red to blue, and the 9 to 36 that we had here, that was blue to green. So the blue I'm going to keep as 9 because that's now the same as this ratio, and then the green is 36. So we need to calculate the percentage of pens that are blue. So to do that, I need to work out the total of these numbers. So I need to do 5 plus 9 plus 36, which is 50. And then it's a percentage, isn't it? So if 9 of them are blue, that is 9 out of 50. Or you could write that like a fraction, 9 out of 50. So if you imagine you had that in a test, we've got to work out the percentage. Well, percentages need to be out of 100, not 50. So therefore, this would need to be doubled, and therefore this needs to be doubled. Or you can think of it in terms of a fraction. If you're trying to make the bottom number 100 again, you'd have to times by 2. And so you would do that. So it'd be 18 over 100, or 18 out of 100 even if you do it this way as well. So it would be 18%. Right, question 3. Now remember, this is a calculator paper. So reading it carefully, it's not just a case of putting this straight into the calculator. She's got an answer of 19.5, correct to 3 significant figures. We've got to write each number correct to 1 significant figure to decide if that answer is reasonable. So to 1 significant figure, this number here, it means you round the first digit that isn't 0, so that would be the 3. You check the one after it. If it's 5 or more, we would round the 3 up, whereas this is only a 2, so it's going to stay as a 3. But obviously 326.8 is not going to round to just 3. So the other digits you just replace with zeros so that it still has the same kind of value. So we could put 0.0, but obviously that doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to leave it as 300. 6.94, well, the first digit there is the 6. It's got a 9 after it, so that's going to make it round up to a 7. So I've now got 300 times, and now in the bracket I've got 7. 3.4. So again, the first digit in that number is the 3. It's only got a 4 after it, so it's going to stay as a 3. So now in my bracket it's going to be 7 minus 3. And then finally, the last number here, 59. Well, the 5 has got a 9 after it, so that's going to make it round up to 6. But remember, 59.4 isn't going to round to 6. We need to replace the others with 0, so it would be 60. So then you can either work this out if you can without a calculator. If not, I wouldn't try to be too clever. If it's a calculator paper, I would use your calculator to make sure you are definitely getting it right. So that gives an answer of 20. So this is very close to 19.5, isn't it? So therefore, that does seem a reasonable answer. So I would put her answer is reasonable. And then I would just write in the calculation again. So 300 times 7 minus 3 over 60. That equals 20. Which is close to 19.5. Right, question 4. So the first thing here is that you've got the brackets. So when you've got brackets, you times those indices together. So I need to do 3 times 2, which is 6. So the a to the 5 at the beginning is going to stay the same. And I'm going to get a to the 6 here because I've multiplied those indices together. Then when you're timesing, you add the indices together. So 5 plus 6 is 11. So I'm just going to write that out because it does say show that. So 5 plus 6 equals 11. Right, part B is a little bit trickier. So writing this as a power of 5. So 125, I know that is 5 cubed. So whenever it says as a power of something, always try and look how can you write the numbers in here as a power of 5. This one here is 25. So again, what is that 5 to the power of? Well, 25 is 5 squared. And then that's to the power of 9. Like that. So this brings in negative indices. If it's 1 over it, it must mean that the indice must be negative. So this would mean the same thing as 5 to the minus 3, because 5 to the minus 3 means 1 over 5 to the positive 3. So this must mean 5 to the minus 3. I've got brackets again here, which means I need to multiply those indices. So 2 times 9 is 18. And now we're back to multiplying again, like the question before. And when I'm multiplying, I add those indices together. And minus 3 plus 18 is 15. So I get 5 to the power of 15. And that is your final answer for that one. Right, question 5. We need to work out the equation of the straight line. So I know 2 points that line goes through, and that is A and B. So the 0, 2 and the 4, 5. So to work out the equation of a line, you need to know 2 things. You need to know the gradient and you need to know a point that it goes through. So to work out the gradient of that line, I need to do the difference in the y's, which is going to be 5 take away 2, over the difference in the x's, so 4 take away 0. So it's really important that you do it in the same order. If you've done the 5 minus 2, you can't then do 0 minus 4. You need to make sure you start with that coordinate and minus that one. So 5 take away 2, 4 take away 0. So that is going to give me a gradient of 3 over 4. I then know that it goes through 0, 2. So actually this one you could put straight into y equals mx plus c. Or you may have done y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So it depends on how you have been taught. So I'm going to do both ways just to show you. So if you use this method here, y equals mx plus c, you've worked out your gradient is 3/4. So you can put y equals 3/4 x. And then you've got to work out what that plus c is. Well, if you know it goes through 0, 2, the intercept is 2. So you would get y equals 3/4 x and then plus 2. So that's one answer that you could have. If you use this method, so again, if we use the 0, 2, you're going to get y take away 2 equals 3/4 x minus 0. So first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of the 0. You didn't really need to put that in. So if we do 3/4 times the x, that would be 3/4 x, and then that times that would just be 0 anyway. So then if you add the 2, then again you get the same answer. So it may be that you multiplied by 4, so you may have something like 4y minus 8 equals 3x, and then rearrange that. So you might have added 8 and got 4y equals 3x plus 8, and that would also be fine. Right, so then the equation of the curve is y equals x squared plus kx plus 8. So when we have a look at the curve, the only thing really that we know about this is that it goes through minus 4, 12. So it's got to be something to do with that point, because we've done absolutely nothing with that yet. So if it goes through minus 4, 12, that is my value of x, and that is my value of y. So I'm going to substitute those into this equation here. So instead of y equals, it would be 12 equals minus 4 squared is 16. And remember, if you put that in on your calculator, that has to go in brackets, because otherwise it won't work. It will tell you that it's minus 16. So minus 4 squared is 16, and then k times x is going to be k times minus 4, so minus 4k, and then plus 8. So I know that 16 plus 8 is 32. So then I could add the 4k, so this is like just solving an equation. So if you add 4k, you would get 12 plus 4k equals 32. Then you can minus the 12. So 4k would equal 20, and then divide by 4. So k equals 5. Right, part C. I didn't realise there was a part C. So Diane draws line BQ. She says the triangle is isosceles. Is she correct? So we're going to have to go back to here. So the line BQ is this line here. So this is the triangle here that we are looking at. And we've got to decide, is that going to be isosceles? Well, to work out the point Q, going back to the equation of the curve, which was here, the number on the end is 8. So that tells me that it's going through 8 here. So that is the point 0, 8. So if it's isosceles, you've got to think, well, what do we know about isosceles triangle? And that is the fact that these two lengths here should be the same if it's isosceles, and this one would be different, because otherwise it would be an equilateral triangle rather than isosceles. So it's going to be to do with the lengths of the sides. So it's basically knowing how to work out the length between 2 points. And to do that, it's like Pythagoras' theorem, where you work out the difference in the x's, work out the differences in the y's, square them, add them, square root. So for example, if I'm trying to work out now the length of AB, then I would do the difference in the x's. So between 4 and 0, that's a difference of 4. And between 5 and 2 is a difference of 3. So square them, add them, and square root. So that's going to be the square root of 25. It's going to get 16 plus 9, which is 5. So what we're now going to do is the same between Q and B. So exactly the same method. So we're going to work out the difference in the x's. So 0 and 4 is 4. 8 and 5 is 3. Square them, add them, and you can see it's the same calculation as this one. It's just the other way around. In fact, it's not even the other way around. It's exactly the same round. So you're still going to get the square root of 25, which is 5. So we have shown that those two are the same length. It's worth just showing that this one as well is not the same length. Otherwise, like I said, it would be equilateral. So this one is a little bit easier. You can see if it's gone from 0,2 to 0,8, well, it's gone up by 6. So I would say that AQ equals 6. So therefore, this must be an isosceles triangle. So therefore, an isosceles triangle, I put because two sides are the same length. Obviously, I'm writing this in the wrong section, but because two sides are the same length. Okay, so question 6. This is a bit nicer question. So y is inversely proportional to x. So if it's inverse, that means y equals k over x. Then you put your numbers in. So 0.04 equals k over x, and we know x is 80. So to get k, that means k divided by 80 equals that. So to get rid of this divide by 80, I need to times by 80. So we need to do 0.04 times by 80, which is 3.2. And as soon as you've got that value of k, put that back into the equation. So it would be y equals 3.2 over x. So that would be the formula. But the question is saying find the value of y when x equals 32. So I need to replace that x with 32. And just work that out on your calculator. So 3.2 divided by 32 is 0.1. Right, question 7 is to do with a sample space diagram, and it's saying that they calculate the difference between the numbers on the card. So if you check the table to make sure you understand it, well, 6 take away 3 is 3. Difference means you take them away. 11 take away 8 is 3. 9 take away 6 is 3. So we've got to work out the values of u, r, and t. So I know that the difference between u and 3 is 11. So if you add the 11 onto 3, u must be equal to 14. Which means now we can work out the others. So 14 and 9, well, the difference between those is 5. And 14 and 12, the difference between those is 2. So that is just 5 and 2. That seems quite nice, to be honest, for 4 marks. Right, question 8, speed time graphs. So just a reminder on speed time graphs that actually to work out the distance, you need to work out the area under the graph. To work out the acceleration, it's to do with the gradient of the graph. So there's, and obviously if it's just speed, you would just read it off the axis over here. So 3 things that you can work out. One is the distance, which is the area. One is the speed, which you would just read off straight away. And then the other one is the acceleration, which is to do with the gradient of the line. So part A, we've got to calculate the deceleration of the tram as it approaches the town hall. So if we have a look at what it's actually saying, so the graph shows the speed of a tram as it travels from the library to the town hall. Calculate the deceleration. So the deceleration is where the speed is going to be going down. So it's this section here because the speed is going down here, so it must be decelerating. And the deceleration is to do with the gradient of this line here. So remember, the gradient is the change in the y, or the difference in the y, divided by the difference in the x. So this height here is 6 because it tells you here the speed was 6. This distance here, well, from 65 to 85 is 20. So you would need to do 6 divided by 20, and make sure you get it the right way around because we want to start with that one and divide it by this one. So it's not 20 divided by 6, it is 6 divided by 20, which is 0.3. So part B, calculate the distance travelled by the tram between the library and the town hall. So that is going to be the area under the graph. So we've got 2 triangles here. I would probably just do it separately. Work out the area of this triangle first. So the distance here is 65 and the height is 6. So the area of a triangle is the base times height divided by 2. So I would need to do 65 times the height divided by 2. That's going to give me this triangle. And then I also need to do this triangle here. Well, we've already worked out the base was 20. So this one is going to be 20 times 6 divided by 2. And then you just add those 2 areas together. So this is just now a case of working it out on your calculator. So this one here is 195. And so the other one, so 20 times 6 divided by 2, that is 60. So when you add that to the 195, you get 255 metres. Right, part C. What was the maximum speed of the tram as it travelled between the library and the town hall? Give your answer in kilometres per hour. So when you look at this, it's 4 marks. So although it is working out a speed, which should be nice and easy because you can just read it off, you've got to wonder why it is 4 marks rather than just 1 mark. So the maximum speed is obviously where the speed is the highest, which is this point here, which is 6. Now the reason it's a 4 marks question is because this is in metres per second. So you would get 1 mark even if all you just put is 6 metres per second. But we've got to change this into kilometres per hour. So the first thing I would do, and there's different ways that you could do it, the first thing I would do is work out what it would be per minute rather than per second. So I would times that by 60 because there's 60 seconds in a minute. So that's going to be 360 metres per minute. We're trying to get to kilometres per hour. So let's change this into hours first. So again, there's 60 minutes in an hour. So I would times that by another 60. So 360 times by another 60 is 21,600. And that is metres per hour. Whereas we want kilometres per hour. So then you need to know how many metres are there in a kilometre. So I actually remember anything with a K is always 1,000. So therefore we need to divide this by 1,000 because there's going to be fewer kilometres than there are metres. So when you do 21,600 divided by 1,000, you're going to get 21.6. So that should be the final answer for that question, 21.6. Okay, question 9 is to do with finding roots of equations. So that is basically just looking for where it's crossing the x-axis. So for part A, we've got to calculate y when x equals 3. So it's a 1 mark question, which makes you think it should be quite easy to do that. So if it's 1 mark, you've got to think, well, what can you do with this x equals 3? Obviously, it's unlikely to also be 3. So have a little look at the question. Well, we know x equals 3. What can you do with that? Well, we can replace every x here with 3. So, for example, instead of y equals x cubed, it would be 3 cubed minus 7x. So that means 7 times x, so 7 times 3. And then minus 12, like that. So 3 cubed is 27. 7 times 3 is 21. And then I'm going to take away the 12. So 27 minus 21 minus 12 is going to give you an answer then of minus 6. Right, we've got to show that P is between 3 and 4. So P is where it's crossing the x-axis, which means it's a solution of this equation here. So if it's between 3 and 4, so something like that, it basically means that when you put 3 into it, you can see it's likely to give you a negative answer because the graph goes down here. When you put 4 into it, it should be giving you a positive answer because the graph goes up there. And if it goes between a negative and a positive, it must mean the 0 must lie somewhere between them. And that is all you have to do. So to show it's between 3 and 4, we've already put 3 into the equation. So I'm going to say that when x equals 3, y equals minus 6, which was negative. So then I'm going to do the same now for x equals 4. And hopefully we should get from the graph you can see it's going to be a positive answer this time. So I would do 4 cubed. So if I write it over here, 4 cubed, this time it's going to be minus 7 times 4. And then the minus 12 on the end. So 4 cubed is 64. Minus 7 times 4, which is 28, minus 12 gives us an answer of 24, which is positive. So the main thing that they're looking for in the mark scheme is the fact that you've got a change of sign. So they do actually use the words change of sign. So there is a change of sign. So as long as those words are mentioned, that's going to be then your final mark. So there's a change of sign. So P is between 3 and 4. And then for part C, we've got to find a smaller interval that contains the value of P. So if we know it's between 3 and 4, I would say the next sensible thing to try is 3.5 because we know that's in the middle. You could try a different value, but to me that makes the most sense. So if we try 3.5, I would do 3.5 cubed minus 7 times 3.5 minus 12. So let's see, obviously this is a calculator paper, do it on your calculator. So minus 7 times 3.5 minus 12. So that gives me an answer of 6.375, which was positive. So I'm looking for where the change of sign happened. So for example, between 3.5 and 4, they were both positive, so there would be no change of sign there, so it can't be between them. But between x equals 3, which was negative, and 3.5, which was positive, that's where the change of sign is happening. So it must be between 3 and 3.5. So in terms of down here, I would put it must be between 3 and 3.5. Okay, the final question that I'm going to do for this video is question 10. So vector A, I would write these down as columns first. So it goes to the 4 to the right and 1 up, so that would be 4, 1. B goes 2 left, so that would be -2, and then up 3, so you get -2, 3. So then we've got to work out the vector A plus 2B, so that would be 4, 1, plus 2 lots of this vector, so -2, 3. So the 4, 1 would stay the same. If I double both of those, I'm going to get -4, 6. So when I add those, 4 plus -4 is 0, and 1 plus 6 is 7. So, I mean, it says you may use the grid below, and I think it is nice to show what that would look like. So 0, 7 would be mean none across, but 7 up. So if I started here, I wouldn't go across. Sorry, you can't see that. There you go. I wouldn't go across, but I would go up 7. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So therefore has length 7, because it is 7 squares up.